Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Oh Shoot. We have a guest on the podcast today. I am chatting with Julia Trotti, who is an icon. You guys, icon status. Yeah, of course. So, Julia, why don't you introduce yourself to everyone, maybe people who don't know you, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone, I'm Julia Trotti and I am a portrait photographer. So over the years, I've done portrait photography, fashion photography, wedding photography, and at the moment I am doing YouTube. So I have a YouTube channel that is all about photography. I do camera reviews, lens reviews. I take gear out on location and test it out and show you examples. And I also have a lot of photography tutorials as well, from composition tips to how to get sharp images to how to choose the right focal length to editing videos. So I've got a little bit of everything on my YouTube channel.
Yes, you are like the perfect teacher for someone that is like just getting into photography. Like when I was first starting, your videos were the ones that I watched because I felt like you helped me understand it. Like the way you teach things is how I understand things.
Thank you. That makes me so happy to hear. But yeah, I love doing like just real life examples. That's what I love doing.
Yeah. And your YouTube is amazing. Like it's so cool that you're able to do that.
Thank you.
Full time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So kind of take me back in your story, like how you got started, maybe just in photography in general and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I've been doing photography for a really long time. I'd say about 15 years now.
Wow.
So I started when I was very, very young. I've always been interested in art. So when I was a child, like I loved drawing and I loved painting. And then one day my dad introduced me to Photoshop. And I didn't have a camera back then. So I would take images from the internet and I'd do like photo manipulations to them. So I'd like change the sky and add trees and add birds. And that was so fun. And one day I was like, I kind of want to take more control over these images that I'm creating. So I grabbed my family's point and shoot camera. I would have been like maybe 15 years old at the time. And I started taking my own photos and I just fell in love with it. And I've been doing photography ever since.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So from that point, did you get into weddings or portraits? Like you said, you did weddings and you've done everything. So like what was like the progress or like the steps that you took?
Yeah. So I started off by just taking photos of random things. Like I had no aim really with my photography. And then eventually I started taking self-portraits. So I'd set up like a tripod and put my camera on a self-timer. And I really enjoyed that process, but I kind of wanted to be behind the camera more. I felt like I was lacking control in that area. So I started asking my sister if she could pose for me in some photos. And I asked my school friends as well. And that kind of opened me up to the world of portrait photography, which I realized I loved more than any other style of photography that I've tried. So from there, that was when I was in high school. And then out of high school, I got a job as a retoucher at a photography studio. And I learned so much from the photographer that worked there. And I also got a job as a second shooter for a wedding photographer who I really admire. And again, I learned so much there because I'm a very hands-on person. So I learned by doing things. And I slowly transitioned from doing fashion photography when I was working at the retouching studio. And then when I started doing second shooting for weddings, I kind of realized like, I really love doing this. Like there's so many different genres of photography that you do throughout a wedding day. And it kept me really like focused. I really loved doing that. So I started taking on weddings as well. So yeah, I was kind of doing like fashion photography and then a bit of fashion and weddings at the same time. And then eventually I did wedding photography full time for about 7 to 8 years. And then I started my YouTube channel.
Okay. How did you know that you were ready to go full time with weddings? You said you were like working another job and, how did you know that was the right time?
So for me, I guess it was kind of like a snowball effect. So, I was working my full-time job and then I was getting clients on the side. Eventually, like the clients started to build up more and more over time, where it got to the point where I felt like I couldn't balance both. I kind of had no life. I was like, I feel like it's time. I need to go part-time on my job or maybe just quit completely. So yeah, it kind of just happened over a span of time where I'd get more and more bookings.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like with a lot of the guests I have, they always say it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah.
Like once you start booking, it just never stops going,
Yeah. I feel like, word of mouth is so powerful. So like once you actually start getting clients, it just goes from there.
So, okay, I wanted to ask you about what you shoot on. So what what's your current like preferred camera body and lens combo?
So at the moment, I'm on a mirrorless camera system and I use the Sony A7 IV. It's my favorite camera body at the moment and my favorite lens. I'm a prime lens shooter, so my entire kit is full of prime lenses, although I have started to add some zoom lenses for like my other styles of photography that I do on YouTube. But for portraits and for weddings and for fashion, I use prime lenses. So I've got the GM 35mm f1.4, I have the 85mm and a 135mm as well. Those are my three favorite. I have a 50 as well, but I don't use it as much.
Right. Why do you find yourself gravitating towards prime lenses instead of zoom lenses?
I've always loved prime lenses. I feel like you kind of get more into the shooting because you have to physically move around to get your compositions. I find when I use a zoom lens, I kind of stay still a little bit more and I rely on the zoom factor to get the shots that I need. So yeah, I love like moving around and walking and stuff when I'm taking photos. So I find prime lenses more fun and like fulfilling to shoot with.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's more fun. I feel like it forces me to get creative.
Yeah.
Because it's very easy with a zoom to just like stay in one place and just kind of like let your subject do the moving. But yeah, it's nice and challenging to have a prime lens for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, cool. So one of the questions I had for you, I already asked you, but I wanted to like ask you a variation of this question. So I'm kind of going off the book, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Okay. So you've tried a lot of different like camera brands and stuff. Like that's literally your YouTube channel. You try out tons of different gear for people. So my question for you is like, let's talk Canon, Nikon, and Sony. Like, what would you say are some of like the pros and cons of like each of those brands? I'm super interested to hear it from your perspective because, you know, you work with these brands all the time.
Yeah. So I feel like an easy way to put this is like why I decided to go with my Sony. And at the time, and they still are, I really love that Sony are always releasing new gear. It means that they're working on things, they're improving firmware, they're improving autofocus, they're improving the way their cameras work. And there's a lot of lenses. I feel like that's a really big thing to keep in mind when you're deciding what camera brand to go with, is to look at all the lenses that you want to use right now and that you might potentially want to use in the future. Because you don't want to be stuck on a system where you're like, oh, I wish I had, I don't know, like a 35 prime or a 135 prime. And then, you know, there isn't one for that camera brand. So I think that's one of the most important things. Aside from that, I feel like nowadays camera brands are all like catching up and autofocus is really good. Image quality is great. So yeah, I think lenses, that's where it really comes down to comparing all these camera brands.
Yeah. You know, there's a lens that Canon has for their mirrorless line that I am so jealous of. Do you know what lens I'm talking about? Yeah.
Because I'm also jealous of this lens. I wonder if it's the same one. Is it the RF 28-70 f2?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the f2 that I'm just like, ugh, I want that so bad.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's a great lens. Have you used it?
No, I haven't.
It's beautiful.
Oh, I bet. I just feel like specifically for weddings, which is why I primarily shoot, it'd be so helpful. Because, you know, I'm usually at f2.0 anyway. Like I'm not.
Yeah, I do that with weddings too. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like if I could just keep that and then just change my focal length right there, like that would be so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good lens.
I am a Sony girl though. I shoot on the Sony A9 II. So I'm in your boat. I do love Sony for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about YouTube a little bit. So that's literally your full-time job right now is YouTube, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So how did you get started with making videos and like making your YouTube channel? Kind of take me back to like that moment in your career.
Okay, so it kind of goes back to when I started photography. So I've been online for a very long time posting my work. I used to post on a website called DeviantArt. I feel like this is showing my age. I used to post all my work there. So I started kind of getting like a following, and then I started posting on Flickr, and then I started on Instagram when that started. And I had like a blog that I'd post all my stuff to. But for me, like something I always really wanted to do was video, but I'm kind of a shy person, which you might not believe like now watching my videos. I'm much more confident now, but I'm still a bit shy. But back then I was like, that was the scariest thing ever to like talk to a camera and like post it online. So I was working for a influencer at the time. I was taking photos and we were like traveling all over the world, and I was like, oh, let's like use this opportunity and I'm just going to vlog some of my travels. It's got nothing to do with photography. Like I'm just going to practice talking to the camera, filming, editing, uploading, and see what all that is like, because I was always interested to do YouTube. So I did that for a year. I was uploading very sporadically, but it kind of got me like I got a handle on things, and I got to see what it's like uploading to YouTube and making videos and things like that. And I was like, yeah, I think this is something I really, really want to do. And sometimes it's good for you to do something that's scary that you're not fully ready for. So I dove head in. I was like, okay, this year, it was like the start of a new year. I'm going to start uploading videos about photography. I'm going to talk to the camera about photography. I'm going to show my photos, and I'm going to upload 2 times every single week for an entire year. So that's what I did to get like my YouTube channel started on photography.
Wow. How did you juggle doing YouTube on top of everything else that you were doing? Like that's just a lot, 2 times a week.
It was so much. I basically didn't have a life for that year.
Okay.
But I knew in my heart, like, I was like, this is something I really, 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 really want to do. And I'm just going to give it my all. I'm going to put everything into it. And it paid off, luckily. But yeah, I basically had no social life because I was uploading to YouTube 2 times a week, which takes a lot of work. Like at the moment, I upload once a week. And even that is a bit hard to stay on top of sometimes. Like it consumes a lot of time making videos. And yeah, I was doing wedding photography at that time as well. So I was busy during the week. I was busy on weekends, and basically didn't do anything but work for a year.
Right. But I mean, it ends up being worth it, right? Like,
Yes.
It paid off, definitely.
Yeah. And I set my boundaries now because it's not healthy to work that much. So yeah, always make sure to set your boundaries when it comes to that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. You mentioned that you're like a little bit shy, which I would have never thought that, but I would love to hear more about like how you overcame that in such like an outgoing industry where you're meeting new clients, new people all the time. Like, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So something I find interesting is that I think just being yourself, you end up attracting the kind of clients that you mesh with personality wise. So like I'd also get clients that were a little bit shy. They like weren't sure what to do in front of the camera. I feel like you just kind of get along in that way. Like you kind of know when you're talking to someone. Yeah, I feel like just practice is like the best thing you can do is just be brave and like put yourself out there and just do it. Doing it again and again and again, you kind of like start getting used to it, and it gets less scary over time.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, you're like the perfect example of someone who like stepped out of their comfort zone, started posting videos, and now like you're this like online personality, but like, for someone that's shy, that's really difficult to do. So yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, of course. So you work with brands, correct? You do quite a few like brand partnerships and stuff. Yeah. So what is that like? How did you start to get those partnerships specifically like on YouTube and stuff?
I think it just came through the kinds of videos that I'm posting and the style of work that I do as well. So just as I continued posting on YouTube, I'd get brands kind of reaching out to me because they really loved seeing what I was doing. They liked my style of photography. They liked the fact that I show real examples and like go outside and do photo shoots with gear and things like that. And also part of it comes from reaching out to brands as well. So I'd get in contact with certain brands that I wanted to work with. And yeah, it was like a 2-way street with a lot of things.
Okay. So when you reach out to brands, like what do you say to them? Like, is that kind of awkward?
Kind of, but not really. I think it depends. Like, so I would normally come up with like an idea of something that I wanted to create, like a concept for a video, and I'd basically share it with them and see if they were interested in working with me on that. And yeah, usually like if you put in, like if you give a good like outline and you have a good idea and something solid that you really want to do, I feel like brands are more often like they do really want to work with you and things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. It's very daunting. Like I'm sure a lot of listeners want to get into a similar boat where they can like work with brands and stuff, but pitching yourself is like honestly the scariest thing you could ever do. So good for you for doing that to get that brand work going. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. If there's something I learned, even just like from what I was saying earlier about making videos, is like you just have to put yourself out there, like have confidence in yourself and just be brave and try your best,
Yeah, absolutely. That's literally the key to all social media for
Yeah,
sure.
I think so.
Yeah. So if there's someone listening that wants to follow in your footsteps for YouTube or just like working with brands, doing gear reviews, stuff like that, what are some tips that you would give that person who's just starting out?
So I think a good tip is it's kind of a simple one, but it's simply to like do it. Like
Right.
some even with me, sometimes I spend a lot of time thinking like, oh, I should do this, I could do that, I have this idea, and the results come from actually sitting down and making it happen. So sometimes I get like a bit caught up with like all the ideas and things I want to create, and I'm like, no, I need to stop, I need to focus. Let's pick one, and what are the steps I need to do to just make it happen and get that up
Hmm.
online. Like that's the most important part, is pressing the upload button.
Yeah. Oh, I really like that. I think it's important too, what you mentioned earlier about like how your content is the type of content that naturally brands will want to work with you because of it. So
Mhm.
like actually creating that and like, making content that brands are going to be like, oh, I like that our brand would fit into this. This is the style of video that we would want. Like just kind of creating it before you even create a relationship with them.
Yes. Yeah.
That's super important too.
Yeah. Yeah, and then some other things is like start creating even if you feel like you're not ready to create as well. Like not everything has to be perfect. Like if you go back and watch some of my old videos, I'm so awkward talking to the camera, and it doesn't matter. Like some of those videos got a lot of views and no one cares that I'm a bit awkward. Like it's fine.
Hmm.
And then also consistency as well. That was a big one. And I think that really helped with my YouTube channel, where I was like, I'm posting every single week, no matter what. I think that really helped a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. With your videos, do you have any like video editing tips, like anything that's like really changed your editing game that maybe like helps you get more views or keep viewers engaged or anything like that?
Not so I guess I like to edit to like I love putting music in my videos, and sometimes I find that I end up looking for music longer than it takes me to edit the video, because the music
Okay.
is so important in your videos, and so is like the audio and things like that. So I always make sure I've got like good music, good audio, and a good script as well. I feel like the concept of the video is super important, the things that you're saying, and it matches up to what you're showing as well. For me, when it comes to video editing, I feel like it's a little bit like a puzzle that you need to put together.
Hmm.
And I find that process really fun.
Yeah. What's your process of like planning a YouTube video? Like, how do you start just like the idea of it?
Oh, with YouTube, I think the thumbnail and the title is the most important thing, because that's the first thing someone sees that you want to entice them to click on it. So it doesn't matter like how amazing your video is. If you don't have a good thumbnail and a good title, no one's going to click it. No one's going to end up seeing your amazing video. So that's always where I start, is like my concept. Like, what am I going to call this? What's it going to look like? And then I kind of go from there. Usually I'll like set up a photo shoot and choose like what gear I'm using depending on what the concept is. And then I'll do the photo shoot, edit the photos, and then get started on the video. So I'll like write a script and see how it fits into like the flow of the shoot. And then I'll kind of change like what I'm saying to make sure it all fits, to show like what I'm saying is matching up to what I'm showing on the screen.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I like that a lot. I think the script is really important. I feel like sometimes people just kind of skip over that. But I
Yeah.
mean, being intentional with your words is so huge
Yeah.
for sure.
I used to just like, yeah, just talk off the top of my head, but then you end up kind of like missing things, or you say the wrong word, and I don't know, like what you post online is permanent. So you kind of want it to be very intentional. Like you said, I think that's super important.
Yeah, for sure. When you're recording your videos, what gear and like what mic are you using? How do you like see the script when you're talking? Is that a thing? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
So usually I'll have a script here on my computer. So I do a lot of like overdubs in my videos when I'm doing a photo shoot.
Okay.
And so I'll be talking over the top of the photo shoot, and then I kind of bring in the things that I say on location. It's kind of like mixed and matched. So I just have my script on my computer and I record like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And what like camera do you use for video and like how do you
I use
like
the Sony A7S3. So my partner, he's a videographer. We used to
okay.
work together in like the wedding industry. So we had
Hmm.
like photo and video packages available for people to book us with. And now he does YouTube with me. So he films on the Sony A7S3, and he uses a Sigma 18 to 35 f1.8 lens. because the zoom lens is so great for video, especially like behind the scenes work, because you need to like move quickly to get shots and things like that. So yeah, that's been our camera since the A7S3 came out. Before that, we were using the A7S2.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, sticking to kind of the same camera.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you have any like help besides like your partner doing video? Like, do you just do it all yourself?
Yeah.
How do you, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the one of the main helps I get is like on the day of a photo shoot, I have a makeup artist. Her name's Lydia. She's a good friend of mine. We've been working together for years, like ever since I started doing fashion photography. And she is such an integral part of our photo shoots as well. You usually see her like in our behind the scene videos with her phone, like getting behind the scenes footage and stuff. And yeah, she helps me so much because she's been to so many of our photo shoots that she knows how it all runs. So she helps with behind the scenes and keeping things running and helping with the outfits and yeah, doing all that stuff. But aside from the photo shoots, like making the actual videos, it's just Dan and myself doing it. I do all the editing and the scripting. He does the filming and some other stuff. And yeah, it's just the two of us.
Okay. Yeah. How do you plan out like your week? You know, like when you sit down and you're like, how do I know what I'm going to do today? Like, what is that process like?
Yeah. So I've got a bullet journal that I use. I actually posted that on my Instagram stories yesterday.
Oh, yeah. I saw
and that keeps my life together. Like I can't live without this. And it's basically, if you look up the bullet journal method, you've got like monthlies where you write down like everything you need to focus on that month. And then I do weeklies. So got every day of the week and I just like move my monthlies to the weeklies so I know what I'm focusing on for that day. Because there is a lot to juggle when you've got a YouTube channel and you're doing TikTok and Instagram and working with clients. Like there's so many things that are going on. So I don't want to forget anything. But yeah, I like to sit down once a month and kind of focus on figuring out like what are the videos that I want to post this month. I try to post once a week. And if I've got time, I'll try to do a little bit more if I can. And so that's like the main focus. And then I'm like, okay, what sponsorships and integrations and clients do we have to work with this month as well? And I'll put that all down. And when I've got like my monthly list of everything I'm focusing on, then week by week, I like slowly start doing all of that.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. You might get me hooked on this method for real.
You should look into bullet journaling. It's so good. I've been using it for years. It's so helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So I was thinking in my head, when you're saying clients, that you're talking about like, I don't know, like people you're shooting, but you're talking about brands.
Yeah, a little bit of both. So I do still do client work on the side, but that's because I love, like I still want to take on clients because it's a nice challenge shooting for someone else and having to do something for them. I don't know if that makes sense because otherwise with YouTube, it's like everything that I want to do. And it's nice having that challenge every once in a while. And then I also have clients because of YouTube as well. So like, yeah, with the camera brands too.
Okay. Yeah. I love that you want to keep doing client work. I think that's such an important aspect of like being an educator is making sure you actually like still understand what it's like to be a photographer.
Yeah.
You know?
Like things change over the years. So yeah, it's important to keep on top of it. And yeah, I love giving like advice on people that want to start their own business. So I think it's important to show like, well, yeah, I'm still running my own business too. So here's my advice on how to do this or that.
Yeah, absolutely. With your content, so you're putting out a video a week. How do you like not run out of ideas? Like,
I don't know. I feel like I love photography so much and I love like thinking about it and talking about it that like I've got like huge lists of ideas. I feel like I don't know.
You probably haven't even and
it's like if I don't have an idea, then a new camera or a new lens will drop and I can make a review video about that as well. But yeah, I just like live and breathe photography.
This is my life. Like,
I know, I've been doing it like forever. So
yeah. No, I mean, it's good. I like that you have like a fallback idea. If your mind goes blank or you're like, I don't know what to do. That's like what I have too, you know, you have to have ideas in case you're not feeling as creative that week. Yeah. Absolutely. So I wanted to transition to talking to you about style and about your portrait work too. So let's kind of like back it up to when you were first like finding your style and stuff. How did you find your style? What are some things that you feel like maybe contributed to that?
Yeah. I think trying a little bit of everything is what really helped me. I did like all sorts of photography over the years. Even when I found my niche of portrait photography, I was like, wow, I love this. I still continued trying different styles of photography because you never know like what's going to click or what you're good at or what like really piques your interest. So
Mhm.
yeah, I did everything from like baby photography, family photography. I did car photography once. I tried macro shots. I tried food photography,
Mhm.
studio stuff. Yeah, a little bit of everything. And yeah, portraits was just the thing that clicked for me.
Right. And I feel like sometimes like it kind of just makes sense with your stage of life. Like you said, your you would have your sister model, and like sometimes it just makes sense to do
Hmm.
the stage of life that you're in, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I feel like my style of photography is transitioning a little bit at the moment. I still love doing portraits, but I'm gaining a lot more interest in landscape photography as well, which is something that I'll be including in my YouTube channel a little bit more of this year because I've been traveling and I love like waking up at sunrise and going to do like landscape photography. It's been a really cool thing that I've been doing for like the last year or so.
Hmm.
Yeah, so yeah, things change. Even if you find something you like, it might eventually evolve into something else.
Yeah. So you're mentioning travel, and that gets me thinking about like you doing all these travel shoots. Like, kind of walk me through the process of like doing travel shoots, finding models. Like, how do you know where to go? Like, what's that like?
Yeah, so when I travel, I mostly do like landscape or like travel lifestyle photography with just myself and Dan. But
Okay.
somewhere that I really love to do portrait photo shoots is in Poznan, Poland. So Dan's Polish and like we go and visit his family every couple of years. And when we're there, we travel to this city that is so beautiful. Because in Australia, we don't really have like old beautiful European looking buildings. Like we have a lot of nature and we have a lot of beaches, as you can see a lot in my work. That's what I
Hmm.
feature heavily. So when I go there, it's really nice connecting with people and being able to do photo shoots in locations that I dream of shooting in that we don't have
Yeah.
here. So
Hmm.
I usually get in touch with modeling agencies and also when like you start posting on social media, you kind of like connect with people that relate to the things that you're posting. So
Yeah.
over time, as I've posted my photo shoots that I've done in Poland, I get more people finding me and reaching out to me. So yeah, it just kind of grows the network.
Right. I feel like the theme is just like snowball effect.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, the snowball.
yeah, like you just will start snowballing. Like once you go there, once you get it in your portfolio, yeah, it just kind of snowballs a little bit.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't acknowledge, but like the fact that you're feeling like transitioning to landscape is really cool. How has that like been for you? Is it kind of like weird or hard or anything like that?
Um, for me, I think the hard part is like sharing it online and like kind of sharing that transition with people as well because I am very known for portrait photography on YouTube and
Hmm.
on social media. And yeah, it's like hard. Like I'm trying to like trickle it in to my
Right.
socials. I don't want it to be like, super jarring. All of a sudden, I'm just uploading like landscape videos. I still want to keep it a mixture because portraits will always be my number one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel like that's the tricky part with it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm sure it's hard to after doing portraits for so long to just like it almost feels like you don't want to disappoint your audience a little bit, even though that's
Yeah.
what you feel drawn to.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got this. I believe in
Thanks.
you. I'm
Thank
excited
you.
to see your landscape work.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So we talked about like your shooting style, your niche and stuff, but how did you find your editing style? Like, I don't know. It's just so hard to figure out where you fall in that.
Yeah. I remember like when I first started photography, I was obsessed with the sepia look. I don't know if
Yeah.
yeah, I loved it. I don't know, something about that really spoke to me. And if you go back and look at my very, very old work on DeviantArt, you'll see that I edited heavily with that sepia color. I don't know,
Okay.
I just loved it. So for
Yeah.
me, I feel like a heavy-handed editing style has always been kind of like my thing that I really love doing.
Hmm.
Eventually, I was like, okay, maybe I should bring some color back into my work, make it a little bit more colorful. And
Hmm.
I feel like it's kind of transformed from there. Again, it's like all about like experimenting and trying new things and seeing what clicks and what works for your work over the long run. And as always, like things always change and evolve. So I feel like you kind of get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, like I love this style, but it's always good to be learning and still trying new things. So like my editing style still evolves to this day, like month or year after year. I guess it doesn't evolve that quickly, But yeah, over a long span of time, it definitely does.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up guys, it's Cassidy, and today I'm going to show you how I use Aftershoot to edit my photos. We've all been there where we have way too many photos to edit, way too many photos to cull. So I'm going to show you how Aftershoot uses AI to solve all of your problems. So let's get right into it. So the first thing that I'm going to do in Aftershoot is I'm going to create a new album, and I'm actually going to have Aftershoot cull for me to start. So I'm going to hit start culling. Then all I have to do is select my folder that has all of my raws in it. Once I find my folder, I'm going to hit import, and then all I have to do is hit start culling, and Aftershoot will start culling for me. I can choose AI automated culling, or I can choose AI assisted culling. Because I want to edit these photos relatively speedy, I'm going to choose the AI automated culling. The next thing that's going to pop up is a window. It's going to ask me what type of photos these are. I'm going to go ahead and hit portrait and headshots, and then it's going to ask me how many photos I'd like AI to select for me. I can choose few, standard, or more. I can also choose a customized AI cull, which will allow me to go in and really customize my cull. Then I'm gonna hit start culling, and I'm gonna allow Aftershoot to cull my photos for me. I have around 800 photos in this gallery here, so let's see how many photos we end up with. I also want you guys to know that I went and made my Matcha Glow profile on my account ahead of time, so that's what we're going to be using for editing. If you have a custom AI editing profile that you want to make, it's super easy to do. I just use my previous Lightroom catalogs and put them into Aftershoot. I'm also going to show you guys the marketplace on Aftershoot. Basically, if you don't have an AI customized profile that you want to create for editing, you can go into here and pick from 30 profiles that are pre-made and super easy to apply to your photos. The marketplace is a really fun opportunity to mess around with different styles and see what you like. While I'm waiting for my culling to happen, I also want you guys to know that Aftershoot offers 24/7 online support. So if you ever need any help with anything, or you have any technical issues, Aftershoot is there to help. So now that my photos are culled, I can go through and select the photos that I would like to use in my final gallery. You can see that it selected 286 photos, but it highlighted 39 of those photos. So I'm gonna go through my highlighted photos and make sure that every single one of them are ones that I would like to use. It looks like Aftershoot did a great job in choosing the photos that I would choose. I'm also gonna go and look at the blurred photos as well. I did intentionally shoot some blurry photos, so I'm gonna go and handpick some of my favorites. Now that I have my culled images, I'm gonna hop on over to the home screen again, and I'm gonna hit start editing on this album. Now that all of my images are culled, I can just go right into Lightroom and start editing manually, or I can use AI assisted culling in Aftershoot as well. So back on the home screen, I'm gonna hit start editing on this project. Then I'm gonna locate my Lightroom catalog, and I'm gonna choose my Matcha Glow AI customized profile. I'm also gonna hit straighten and crop, just because that takes away the extra work for me. And then I'm going to hit edit, and I'm gonna let Aftershoot do its thing and edit my photos for me. During this time, I'm gonna leave, go get a chai, and come back. My photos are gonna be all edited and ready to go. Now that my photos are edited, I'm going to review them in Lightroom. And as you can see, Aftershoot did a great job editing my photos, basically exactly how I would normally edit them. And that's it, guys. Aftershoot really is that simple. Thank you so much, Aftershoot, for sponsoring this podcast episode. Make sure to go check out Aftershoot at the link in the description of this video. Aftershoot is also offering a free 30-day trial for all OhShoot listeners. So go to that link in the description, and thanks so much for watching. How did you learn Lightroom in the first place? Was it at your Photoshop job?
Yeah, so I learned a lot. I learned a lot of retouching skills at that retouching job, and my dad also took me to this seminar. Julianne Cost, who had worked on Lightroom at that time, she did a seminar showing us how to use Lightroom from beginning to end, and that blew my mind. I was like, whoa, I love this program. Let's go home and let's learn it. And yeah, I just spent hours and hours after school just editing photos. I loved it.
Yeah, that's amazing. What are some of your favorite areas in Lightroom, things to tweak and things that you always feel like you go to when you're making tweaks?
Yeah, so I always use just the tonal adjustments, of course. I love HSL. I use that heavily, and curves as well. And then I really love masking. Using a brush to mask certain areas of your photos, you can do so much to get your photo to look amazing just with masking.
That's so true. Honestly, I've been loving Lightroom's new updates to a lot of things that have been needed. Masking and preset amount, intensity, and
I love that one.
Oh, isn't it so nice? And
the noise reduction too.
Yes.
That's been great.
That is actually life-changing for me because I shoot a lot of weddings where it's like so dark.
Yes, I wish I had this like back when I was doing weddings full time.
Yeah, honestly,
it would have been so helpful.
It really feels like a cheat. Like it feels like it should not be this easy.
Yeah.
I actually have a new thing on my Lightroom. I don't know if you have the lens blur thing.
Yeah, I haven't played around with that a lot yet.
It's interesting. It kind of feels a little bit like the portrait mode.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like on your phone, but it looks very natural. Like
That's
it's kind of
cool.
surprising. Yeah. So yeah, Lightroom's dropping some good stuff.
Nice.
Okay. So last thing about style. If there's someone listening that maybe feels a little bit lost in their style, maybe shooting, editing style, what advice would you give to that person who's just trying to find their way?
Yeah. I'll stick with like just portraits because, you know, in your general style of photography, I'd recommend to just try as many different photography genres as possible to get better. With portraits, if you're struggling to find your way there and you're already doing some portrait photo shoots, I would recommend to take a look at like some inspiration online and try and figure out what it is that you want to achieve, like what kind of speaks to you and what makes you feel excited, and try that out at your next photo shoot. Like if it's a certain pose or like a certain location or a certain lighting or a certain lens, like just take a couple of photos in that style and see what that does. And you kind of can go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's so important to just be in tune with what you feel drawn to. You know, like Pinterest can be so overwhelming. Like you just go and you're like, wow, I love all this. I don't know what I'm even looking at right now.
Yeah.
So just being really in tune with what you love.
Yeah, you need to like really pinpoint exactly what it is. Like, is it the lighting? Is it the pose? Is it the focal length, the location, the outfit? Like, what is it that you love so much about that photo?
Yes, that's so valid, because then I feel like you can really start to try to find your style and slowly it starts to refine itself. It's not like an overnight thing. I don't know.
It takes a long time.
Yeah, it really does. Like years, honestly. I'm still finding my style.
Yeah, mine's always changing as well.
Right, literally. Like I feel like I find it and then I change it. Like,
yeah, you're like, all right, I got here. What's next?
Yeah, it's true. So let's talk about your portrait work then, because you're like the portrait pro. How would you recommend someone get started in portrait work, just in general?
Yeah, I think like first you need like a portfolio. You need to show people what you're capable of and like what your style of work is. So I would recommend to try and shoot some portraits. So what I did was I asked my sister, I asked my friends, you can ask your family, and just take the style of photos that you want to be hired for. That's like my best advice, is like what you can put out to the world. It's like someone will see that and they'll be like, oh, I want photos of myself that look like that.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's so important too that like you don't expect it to happen overnight.
No,
you know,
it takes a long time.
Literally. But it's great to just use the people you have in your life, because like they're free models and you can just keep getting better and better and better for sure.
It's also kind of good because like you know them, so you won't be as nervous. You'd be, more willing to try things and tell them how to move and things like that. That's less so daunting.
True. Yeah, literally. I made my sisters do some crazy things for portraits when I was getting my portfolio. Oh gosh. Yeah, it's so crazy. So for your portraits, are there any like key techniques or things that you use while you're shooting?
Like in terms of camera or posing?
Either.
Okay. So when it comes to posing, something that I love doing in my photo shoots is I tell people to never stop moving. Like always be moving, always be doing something, even if it's just like, moving your shoulders around or your head a little bit or looking around. Like it adds like this dynamic to your photos when someone's not just like posing and frozen in front of your camera. It's so important to get them to move. And I feel like that also gets them to feel a little bit more comfortable as well, because they have less time to think about what they're doing in a way. So like, if you're holding a pose for ages, you kind of like start thinking like, oh, is my hand weird? Like, should I continue doing this? Like, I don't know. So I try not to give people too much time to think. I'm always like asking them to stand over here and let's walk over there. Let's sit down. Let's do this, and always be moving. That's my number one when it comes to posing. And
Mhm.
then in terms of my camera technique, I personally really love creating very dreamy looking photos. So I
Mhm.
love shooting with backlight. And when you're
Okay.
shooting with backlight, it means the sun is behind your subject and the sun is like streaming directly into your lens. And it causes this really beautiful, low contrast, hazy, very dreamy looking photo. I love doing that.
Oh, I love that. If there was like a second lighting scenario that you had to choose that wasn't backlit, what would you choose?
I feel like it depends on like the style of the shoot because,
Okay.
if we're going for that whole dreamy overall look, I love shooting at blue hour. That's like my second favorite to golden hour. So
Yes.
that's like just after the sun has set. You still got like some ambient light in the sky, and that's like super soft lighting and it's quite moody as well because it's like a little
Yeah.
bit dark. So I
Yeah.
love shooting in that kind of lighting. But if I'm
Mhm.
doing a photo shoot where like the photos are more like exciting or like a bit more fashiony, I love shooting with direct harsh light. So that's when the sun is like
Yeah.
directly facing your model.
Mhm.
Yeah, that can create some really striking results.
Yeah. I feel like the lighting really dictates the colors you get
Yes.
in the end. So like blue hour is going to give you more blue tones and
Yeah.
like direct, I feel like direct sun, usually my colors are so like there, you
Same. They're
know?
so punchy and colorful.
Yes, which
Yeah.
can be a vibe,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
it's cool. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to what you were saying about posing, I feel like with posing just one person, you really need to make them feel like they're not at a photo shoot. So
Yeah.
yeah, what
Yeah.
you said about like always moving and stuff, I feel like that's so key because that's going to make them feel like they're not really sitting there by themselves, getting their photo taken. It really
Yeah.
just makes them more comfortable.
Yeah, you don't want them to feel awkward because then you see that in the photo. I feel
Yeah.
like I don't
Oh
like
no, absolutely.
that.
And like if you're holding the same pose, I feel like I start to stiffen up and almost look like
Yes.
not relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's really important.
Yeah.
Love that. With posing for portraits, are there any specific poses that you like are always defaulting to, or like when you're posing, what's kind of like that process like?
Yeah, I definitely have some that I always default to. Um, I love like walking shots. I feel like they're
Mhm.
really fun. They're just fun to shoot and they look really cool too. You get like
Yeah.
people spinning around and swinging their arms. Like there's so much movement in that frame that you capture. I
Mhm.
also love getting people to sit down because I feel like that relaxes them the most because all of a sudden you're not thinking about your legs and your arms. Like you've got so many places to relax your arms when you're sitting down as well that it makes it really easy to pose people like that. And
Mhm.
then when I'm taking close up portraits, I love having hands in the photo. So I'm always asking people to like rub their neck and play with their hair and like pretend they have a headache or like scratch the top of their head. Like having like
Yeah.
hands in a close up portrait, I feel like adds a little bit of something. So I'm always doing
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are great tips for sure. I'm thinking, okay, when I think of your work, I think of a lot of your locations. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
your locations are super unique and they seem very like intentional. What are like, how do you choose those locations? Like,
Yeah.
what
I
does that
spend
look like?
so much time location scouting. And even if I'm like spending a day out and I'm not working, I will
Mhm.
always be looking out for locations. When I'm
Yeah.
just going about my day to day life, I'll be like, oh, that would be like a cool place to do a photo shoot. So
Yeah.
yeah, I spend lots of time location scouting like on purpose as well, where you just like kind of drive or walk around and see like what kind of spots. And I don't know, I feel like I when I see something, like I'm just like, yes, I know that's gonna make a good photo location, whether it's like the color or the texture or the kind of building or whatever it is, or maybe the light's really good there. Yeah,
Okay.
spend a lot of
So,
time location scouting.
yeah, yeah. I feel like with your shoots, you really do like it looks very intentional. Is there like a process that you have to planning your shoots? Like outfits? I know you said you have a makeup artist. Like what does that planning
Yeah.
process look like?
So for me, the location comes first. That's like the most important thing for me personally. And I find
Mhm.
that I'm really inspired by locations. Like I said, I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, I can do a photo shoot there. And then, I'll be thinking about the location and I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of greens in that location because Sydney is covered in like trees and bushes and parks and stuff. So
Yeah.
we always have a lot of greenery. And I'll be like, well, what kind of like photo shoot would look cool there? I guess like pink colors would suit this green, maybe purple, blues if I want it to be a bit more like complementary. So that's going to start giving me an idea for the outfit that I want to use. And then I'll be like, well, what does this outfit look like? Is it like a cute dress, like soft and flowy, or is it like, jeans and a top? So that'll start kind of dictating what the photo shoot's going to look like. Like, is it going to be like that backlit, dreamy kind of photo shoot, or is it going to be more like harsh light or blue hour, moody kind of photo shoot? And everything just like leads from one step to another until it comes like all together. And then I'm like, okay, now it's time to book the model. Let's get the makeup artist, Lydia, and let's film a video.
Yeah. With the outfits and stuff, are you like buying the outfits? Are you asking people? Do you just use stuff you already have?
I do a mixture of everything. So I use some of my own clothes as the outfits. I buy some outfits. I always keep an eye out for when they go on sale, and then you just buy them on sale. And I try to buy things that I can reuse time and time again. So you can use a top with pants or a top with a skirt, and you like mix and match. So you get a lot of uses out of it. And I also buy like staples. So like plain white t-shirts, plain white skirt, and they're so easy to just use time and time again. And I also borrow things from designers. So they'll send it to me, then you'll use it for a shoot, send it back, and then like you just tag them when you post it up online. And I also ask the models to bring outfits as well. So there's lots of different options.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. I always wonder, like, I don't know. Like, it just seems like buying stuff for every shoot seems a little unreasonable.
Yeah. It's a bit too much consumerism, I feel like. So I try to make use of like borrowing and asking people to bring stuff too.
Yeah, that's awesome. It also sounds like for you, texture is a big thing, right?
Yeah,
like in your photos. Yeah. So do you ever mess around with like lens filters or anything to add in like extra texture or lack of texture?
Yes. It's sad though, because I do a lot of reviews on camera bodies and lenses, like you don't want to be adding effects and stuff to that because you want to see what the actual lens looks like. So unfortunately I don't do it that often, but I love textures in my photos. So I love using like pro mist filters to add like that haziness. That's really beautiful. Especially when you're shooting like in the shade or not quite golden hour yet, it can help add that dreaminess if it's not quite there in real life. And I also love doing textures afterwards in Photoshop. So like I will add like film scratch textures, or I'll add extra light leaks in my photos as well.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know Photoshop like that. I wish I did, but it's just
really?
not. Yeah. It's just not really my thing.
Maybe I should make a video about that. I don't think I have a video about that.
That would be amazing. Like adding texture.
Yeah. I'll add it to my list.
Your never ending list.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay. Well, I have just a few more questions for you. I kind of wanted to ask you about like the business side of things. Like, I don't want to dive too much into it, but I guess like maybe if there's like one lesson that you've learned from the business perspective, starting your business or running a business, if there's like one lesson that you would go back and tell yourself, do you have one?
That's a tricky question.
I know. I'm sorry.
I guess like I didn't know like anything about running a business when I first started. So it was super messy for me.
Right.
At first. And I was also really young too. Like I didn't know what I needed to keep track of. And I didn't know anything about like business expenses and things like that. So that was a huge learning curve for me. For me, I was like, oh yeah, I want to be a photographer. And I was like, I thought that was just all creative. Like I was like 17 at the time when I was like, oh, I want to start my own business. Like I knew nothing.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess, looking back, and if you're someone that wants to start their own photography business, doing photography is like just a portion of it. And then you have like, the whole business side of things to take care of as well. So I would definitely recommend to do like some reading on, because it's very specific to like what country you're from or even what state you live in and things like that.
Right.
Just do some reading about like, what it's like running your own business, like about taxes and like how to keep track of your income, keep track of your expenses, and learn all about that. Because when I first started, I didn't keep track of anything, and then when it came time to do my taxes, I was like, I don't know what to do.
Right.
And it just takes more time than it should have if I had just done it like as I went, but I had no idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a girl who like I would just ask people like, okay, I want to start my business. What do I do? So luckily for me, I had people who told me like, oh, you need to start an LLC. You need to do whatever. But yeah, like if you don't know any of that, like, what are you going to do? Like,
yeah. So yeah, you either learn by asking like what you did, like learning from other people, just reading about it. But yeah, it's definitely something you need to know when you want to start your own business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's not going to be all rainbows and butterflies and shooting all the time and editing. Like,
no.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Julia, it was so great having you. I want to ask you the question that I try to ask all my guests, which is a crazy story from a photo shoot. Do you have something crazy that's happened to you while you've been shooting?
Yeah. So I feel like, okay, I'll start off with, it's very Australia core, but once when I was shooting a wedding, the mother of the bride put a dress on and she like turned around to grab the door and she had a giant Huntsman spider on her dress.
Goodbye.
So that was wonderful.
Like she didn't put it on though. She just grabbed the dress.
No, it was on her.
On
she
her.
had the dress on her and it was like on her leg.
Oh my gosh.
That was scary. But she was really like nonchalant about it. She's
right.
like, oh, okay. She just grabbed it up.
I always picture Australians being very chill about Huntsman spiders.
Yeah, well, they don't actually, they're not venomous. They don't hurt you in any way.
Right.
They're pretty chill. So yeah, usually if like someone has a Huntsman spider, they just keep it in their home because it actually eats like flies and stuff like that.
Right.
So yeah.
Do you have a Huntsman spider in your house?
No, I don't.
Oh, I kind of picture it like a pet almost.
Maybe you could. I don't know.
You like train it and feed it.
Yeah, aside from that, I feel like the craziest story I have is again from a wedding. I caught food poisoning the day before I had to shoot a wedding.
Oh no.
And I had to shoot a wedding with food poisoning. I was like absolutely miserable the whole day. And the funny part is it ended up being one of the most iconic weddings I've ever shot. Like the photos came out amazing. The wedding was so cool. The couple were really like nice to me about it. I brought Dan to help me as well. They only booked one shooter, but I was like, Dan, I'm not going to survive today unless you help me. Like, please come. Yeah. And then I slept for like 3 days after that wedding. And that's like absolutely scarred me. I'm like, I never want to do that again, ever.
But like, how do you prevent that? Like literally that just happens, you know?
Yeah. Like, it was just an accident. Like, yeah, it must have been from like the food that I ate, but everything tasted fine. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was like, I never want that to happen again.
Right. It's so hard as photographers because we're really the only people that can do, like, if someone books us, like they book us, you know, so we're there. If we're sick, we're there if, you know, and through anything. So,
and it usually happens like last minute as well. Mm-hmm. Like, it was like 3 a.m. and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting sick. What am I going to do? And then the wedding was the next day. Like, it's not a lot of time. And anyone who, I feel like people are already booked so far in advance that it's so difficult to find someone with the same style and quality as you to replace you. So you just have to like really take care of yourself to avoid anything like that. Because
lock yourself in the house for 24 hours before a wedding. Oh, that's crazy. Well, I'm sorry that happened, but honestly, I'm glad the photos turned out iconic. That's just
they turned out so good.
You deserved that.
Thanks.
Yes, of course. So can you tell everyone where they can find and follow you on social media so they can get off this episode and go find you?
Yeah. So if you want to learn more about photography, my YouTube channel is Julia Trotti. It's just under my full name. And I'm also on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter under Julia Trotti as well.
Okay. Super simple. Same username and everything. Easy. Yeah. I'll have everything linked in the description too for everybody. So,
Thank you.
Julia, it was so good to have you on this episode. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you. Can I also just say thank you so much for having me? If you're listening because of me, please check out Cassidy's work as well because she's amazing. I've been following her for ages. I found you on TikTok actually.
Did
and then
you?
I started following you everywhere else. I was like, I love what you do. It's really cool.
Oh my gosh. So, wait, I did not know that. That literally made my day. Thank you.
I found you like a year ago or something. I've been following you ever since.
Oh, stop. Okay. You're an icon. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Okay. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
All right. Bye. Thank you.